Welcome in, guys. This is Bash here bringing you this presentation of Bash CFB Network, and today we are going to go over spread picks. I'm picking every single game. I already picked every single game, so I'm going to go through these games and go through my reasoning. But let's get right to the chase, all right? So go ahead and quickly go against the spread. The spread here is 21.5 plus 21.5 for SMU. I think TCU covers the spread. I think it's not close. I think TCU dominates an SMU team that doesn't seem like the same team a year ago. I didn't expect them. I expected a good game against North Texas, and it was a blowout. I'm talking. So TCU, 87% agree with me, but TCU will cover the spread of 21.5 points. 9.5 points plus 9.5 points for Kansas State. I got Mississippi State covering. Look, I'm not impressed with Kansas State. Not too impressed with Skylar Thompson. I'm very surprised that it is this close of a margin that Mississippi State only gets 53% of the vote, and only two of the experts picked Mississippi State. But I really like Mississippi State, guys. I guess I'm a little bit high on Mississippi State, but I expect them to play well. Michigan, Western Michigan. I'm picking Western Michigan here against the spread, and this is kind of a game to avoid if you ask me, because 27.5 is a very iffy number. I think 38-10 could very well happen, and 28 points could very well happen. Right now, it's hard for me to see Michigan scoring 40 points on anyone right now, which is why I'm going to say odds are Michigan does not cover the spread. It's going to be closer than a lot of people expect. Plus, Western Michigan didn't play too bad offensively against Syracuse, so if they could put up a little bit of points, a little bit of yards against Michigan, get 13 points, I don't see Michigan covering that 27.5 point spread, getting 28 points or higher. Wisconsin versus New Mexico State. I think this is a very interesting one. This is another one that I would completely avoid. Wow, the next one is surprising. But another one I'd completely avoid, but I'm going to have to go with Wisconsin on this one, and it's a close one. I think Wisconsin wins handily, kind of like the Utah State Wisconsin game a year ago. Probably going to start off slow, kick into high gear, and win by 40 points or so. They won by 49 last year against Utah State. I think it's going to be similar to that. But again, one that I would avoid because there is a very serious shot that New Mexico, the Lobos, keep it within that margin. Look pretty good against Incarnate Word, but it is Incarnate Word. Wow, I am surprised by the spread, Oklahoma, UCLA, but you guys will be even more surprised. I'm here picking Oklahoma. By the way, 82% for Wisconsin. It's only 25% for Western Michigan, so I'm picking the non-favorite to cover there. But 75% says Oklahoma will cover. I think it will be pretty close with the cover here. I don't necessarily say it's a stay away from kind of pick with like the last two were, but I would say this isn't the first one that I would bet on if I was in Vegas right now betting on spreads, because UCLA is still a Power 5 team with a lot of talent, and I think UCLA could possibly be able to keep this one close, or at least within 30 points, but I think it's going to be a blowout. I could be off on that. I think Oklahoma wins by 42, surely off of their offense. And UCLA's offense looked like crap against Cincinnati. Moving on, Virginia Tech versus William & Mary, 45.5. Wow, that's a big spread. William & Mary is a pretty tough opponent when it comes to FCS opponents to face. I'm going to say the Tribe cover. 35% agree with me. That's a little more than I thought. I say the Tribe covers, not by much, though. I still think Virginia Tech wins in the 35 to 45 range. I don't know if they will win by more than 45. I don't think they will really score that many points. I don't think they will even really hit the 50s. So unless it's like a 52-0 or 48-0 type game, I don't see it happening. They're going to call off the dogs in the second half if they're up by a lot, which I think they will be. Oregon at home against Portland State. Oregon is favored by 49.5. Now, this one is very interesting. I got Portland State covering this one. I think it's very close. Again, this is one I would avoid. I could be, this is hitting some very weird ground, but the quarterback Jelani Easton going into his sophomore year could possibly be able to score a good handful of points against Oregon. Bowling Green, I think, was underdogs by around the same amount. I could be wrong on that, by around the same, a few less points. And Bowling Green did cover the spread a week ago at Autzen Stadium. I don't know, something tells me that Portland State is going to go ahead and cover because they're going to be able to score a couple touchdowns. And I wouldn't be surprised if Oregon beats them by 50. I wouldn't. But I think that spread is still way too high, even for Portland State versus Oregon, even if Portland State isn't a high-quality FCS school. Ohio State favored by 35.5 against Rutgers. Whew, that is actually a tough one, man. A lot of tough ones here. And this is why, because I think Rutgers is a much better team. I think they will be fighting for a bowl game this season. In fact, I actually am going to predict this. The winner of Maryland Rutgers at the end of the season is going to a bowl game. So that's my prediction there. Let's see. I think I posted something. I'm going to go ahead and say Ohio State covers because I think Ohio State is going to be able to score points yet again. But I don't know if it's going to be by that much. 80% say Ohio State. I'm back into the majority after 2 games, not in the majority. Watch out for those, though. But I think Ohio State could win by – they could win by as much as 50 or 60 points. I think they will win by around 40, 45, at most 49. I can see a 59-10 game. That was my score prediction earlier. I'm kind of second-guessing that. But moving on, Notre Dame and Ball State. Notre Dame is favored by 34.5, and I'm going to have Notre Dame cover that spread. I think Ball State is just a bottom dweller of the MAC, and I don't see that one being competitive. Here we go. South Carolina is plus 10.5 against Georgia at home, and I'm going with the Gamecocks. I'm going with South Carolina. 51% of people agree with me. A very 50-50 toss-up split. I like what I see from South Carolina's offense this season coming into this year. Very close call here. I think South Carolina wins it outright at home, but they will at least cover the spread. It will be a close one. Alabama, Arkansas State. I'm going to go with Arkansas State here. I don't think Alabama is going to be really – we've seen it many times. They win by 31, 35 points against these types of teams, kind of 41-10 type of games, 45-10. I don't see Alabama really beating these guys down by 40 points because this is a formidable Group of 5 opponent. They play formidable Group of 5 opponents. In the past, they have played Fresno State last year was very good. They played Troy in the past. They played teams that are formidable in the Group of 5 and have competed. So I'm going to go ahead and say Arkansas State covers that spread. Washington against North Dakota, 38.5. I think that's a low line, even though North Dakota is not too terrible of a football program. I think that's a low line, and I think the Fighting Hawks don't get anything going as Washington wins that one by more than 38.5. I think they win by 40 easily. Miami against Savannah State. Savannah State is not good. I'm going to go with Miami to blow them out in response to that beatdown that they suffered against LSU that they kind of made look better than it really was. UCF favorites by 42.5. Gotta have them cover, man. They should have covered. They didn't, but they should have covered against UConn. Kind of calling off the dogs last week made them not cover. Or what? Did they cover? Actually, they might have. I can't remember what that line was. But yeah, UCF offensive explosion. I think they will put up 60 in this game. I don't think South Carolina State stands a chance. West Virginia against Youngstown State. Man, a lot of FCS teams, and we got more coming up. Yeah, this is annoying. West Virginia, I got covering this one. I think they will be able to score a lot of points. Yet again, I don't think Youngstown State's going to score a whole lot. 50-50 split. Wow. I think Youngstown State is a solid team. And I was kind of thinking about, well, maybe Youngstown State can make this one close, but I really just don't see Youngstown State being able to stop West Virginia whatsoever. West Virginia is not going to be the type of team to struggle offensively against an FCS opponent. That's why I have to say this. I don't think they'll get in a shootout. I don't think really anyone will get in much of a shootout against an FCS opponent, so I'm going to go with West Virginia here. Texas A&M, Clemson. I think Clemson dominates this one. Why are we talking about Texas A&M in this light that they haven't been in? Now, of course, I wouldn't be that surprised if this game is within 12.5 points at this rate because I really like Travion Williams. Travion Williams is one of the best backs, and I liked him since he was a freshman. I really like him on that side of the ball, but I don't necessarily like this Texas A&M team losing Christian Kirk a year ago. A pretty decent defense, a nasty D front. I mean, I could see it happening, but this Clemson defense is going to shut down. They're going to take away that threat of Travion Williams and force. I believe Kellen Mond was a starter against. I didn't watch the Northwestern State game. I believe Kellen Mond was a starter. I really, really need to look that up. I don't know why I don't know this. I didn't really pay attention to that game at all on Thursday, covering in depth. Yeah, it was Kellen Mond. I thought he was a starter. So hey, I was right. Don't at me. I don't trust Kellen Mond to beat Clemson with the Army. That's the thing. The only people who are going to beat Clemson are going to be teams that can beat Clemson through the air. That's why I'm going to give NC State a shot. I don't give Florida State a shot anymore. I picked them earlier. I think actually Boston College will have a shot because I think they will be able to balance out because Anthony Brown looked pretty good and A.J. Dillon is a monster. I will give Boston College a serious shot, not Florida State anymore. NC State and Georgia Tech also, mainly because it's a different style of offense. Not Texas A&M, though. I don't see Texas A&M necessarily being able to neutralize. Kellen Mond is not the kind of quarterback to do so. LSU is going to win by 50. Let's not really flood on that. I think Florida wins this one, but I think it will be similar to last year. It will be a close one, except I don't think Kentucky's really going to screw themselves over in this game. I just think Florida's going to be the better team, and Kentucky missed their opportunity on this whole curse thing. They missed their opportunity to finally beat Florida a year ago. They really should have beat Florida a year ago. They didn't. Florida should have been 3-8, and Kentucky should have won that football game, but they didn't. What happens, happens, and that is it. So moving on, Auburn against Alabama State. 45.5. I'm going to go with the over. I think they win by 50. But that over is not going to be like crazy over, and no more than a touchdown over. Here we go. Pitt, Penn State. This is the first one of my crazies, guys. Actually, that would be the second bold claim because I said South Carolina was going to win outright. But I got Pitt winning outright. Pitt beat Penn State a couple years ago with a better Penn State team, even though they were a little bit inexperienced a couple years ago in 2016, and they were one of the two teams, ended up being three with the loss to USC, but one of the three teams to beat Penn State throughout the season who was an argument for the playoff, and that same Pitt team did beat Clemson. I think that team is going to be a little bit back to where they were. Kenny Pickett is a lot better of an option. He was just young last year. It took a minute to get him into the system, and Max Brown was there. He wasn't the solid fit for Pitt's offense, and they love to run that jet sweep. They're going to test the edges against Penn State, and they will test up the middle where they had to replace two defensive tackles, and their secondary is weak on the edges. So it'll be all up to those outside linebackers. I'll be very interested to see if how much they run towards Sharif Miller, who is probably the best player on this Penn State defense. But overall, I think the balance between getting all around the edge and being able to run up the gut, I think that will, and Kenny Pickett really running this offense very smoothly. I think that combination will have Pitt win in a close battle where Smash Mouth football in the 20s, Smash Mouth football is going to be prevalent out there in Heinz Field on Saturday night. Stanford, USC, again, this is another bold prediction. I think Stanford makes a statement and they blow out USC, and this is why, because USC doesn't have the offense that they did a year ago. I don't think it's going to be necessarily a 55-10 kind of blowout like they did against Notre Dame a year ago. USC, but I think it's going to be something like 34-10, more reasonable, because I don't think USC has the weapons they did a year ago. I'm not, Amon-Ra. Sorry, is that Amon-Ra? St. Brown. Is it? I can't remember if Amon-Ra was the one at Notre Dame. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yeah, he's at USC. Okay. That's who I thought it was. So St. Brown is a great weapon, but he's only a freshman. JT Daniels is only a freshman. He's not going to be as poised as a 20-year-old Sam Darnold versus an 20-year-old Sam Darnold is still a young Sam Darnold, but he's going to be more poised than an 18-year-old JT Daniels. And also Tyler Vaughns is no Deontay Burnett, and they don't have a running back nearly like Ronald Jones. That offense is not going to be nearly as explosive. Stanford's going to be able to pick and choose their poison. I think the poison that they need to choose is the run game. They need to go ahead and make play conservative in the back end, make the run game beat you with Stanford. I think they will end up doing that. I think David Shell's smart enough. And look, I think KJ Costello, Bryce Love is going to get big carries, and I think once Bryce Love gets big carries and then USC starts falling down, that's when KJ Costello is going to start taking over, kind of like last week when, hey, look, Bryce Love isn't working, let's go ahead and flip it. They're going to start focusing on Bryce Love because they can't score on offense, so they got to start finding some way. And KJ Costello has been poised enough. He will be able to finish the deal 35, 34, 10 kind of thing, but I think it's not close. I don't think it's necessarily a huge blowout. I don't think it's close. Boise State, UConn. Boise State covers. I think Boise State's a better team than UCF all around. I think their defense is a lot better. I think they have better – I think really Boise State is better at every position, but maybe the quarterback position. And I say maybe because they don't have too bad of a quarterback with Brett Rippon Jr. themselves. But I think Mackenzie Milton is just a freaking nature. And maybe the running back position too, but that's even then debatable. They just have an all-around better team, and I really like their defense. And also the Mountain West looks like the best Group of 5 conference so far this year. So I will talk about that a little later when we go to the pick'ems. And finally, Michigan State, Arizona State. And here's my fourth big statement. I'm going with Arizona State to at least cover. I think this one's going to go down to the very wire. I think Arizona State pulls it out. You're at home, the crowd to your back.
Okay, bye.
And sorry about that. Arizona State wins that game outright. I am so sorry about that. That got me all messed up. Can't believe how much I get bothered. All right, so let's go to the pick'em. So we're just going to jump right back in. And simply, I'm just going to pick every game because I already picked against the spread here. I'm not going to pick against the spread with every single game. TCU, SMU. TCU wins. Simple. I already picked them to cover. I already explained them. Let's move on. Liberty, Army. I think Army wins this one in a very close one. I really like quarterback Stephen Calvert. Stephen Calvert is 345 yards against Old Dominion in the FBS debut. FBS versus FBS, 52-10, I believe it was. Liberty is going to be they're not eligible for a bowl with the whole rules, but listen. Liberty is going to go above 500. I think they will, but I don't know if they win this game in West Point. I think they could. At the end of the day, though, I don't know if Liberty's defense is going to be poised enough to slow down that triple option attack. Rutgers, Ohio State. I got Ohio State winning, and pretty self-explanatory there, and I've already explained it. Maryland versus Bowling Green. I think Maryland blows out Bowling Green. They were really impressive a week ago. I really like what I saw from Maryland's offense. The new freshman, Jacob, stepping up. And they also got Ty Johnson back, who was kind of sleepy last week. He's going to have a big game against Bowling Green. And Kasim Hill is also a tremendous football player. And by the way, you can see my 4 favorite teams in college football are, I'm not going to show bias, Army, Ohio State, Bowling Green, and Cincinnati. But, of course, I picked against Bowling Green. I think they'll get blown out. Cincinnati, they will dominate Miami. Michael Warren, a very solid running back, had a lot of touches and just kept going as a freshman, I believe he is, a week ago against UCLA. I think it's going to be somewhat of a similar game, except I think they just kind of just out physical Miami. I think they get a huge win by 28 points in Paul Brown Stadium. It'll be very fun, though. Watch. Wisconsin's going to beat New Mexico. We're going to move on. Mississippi State's going to beat Kansas State. I've kind of kept on this. It will be interesting to see how the offense looks even better after last week's showing with Nick Fitzgerald at the realm, and also how Kansas State can respond to a near FCS loss. Remember, a lot of people, I wasn't necessarily buying into Kansas State, but a lot of people were kind of talking about Kansas State like that team to watch for in the Big 12. I think that team is Iowa State. I don't know why people are starting to sleep on Iowa State. We're saying it's down to West Virginia and Oklahoma because of one game where no one even saw Iowa State play because of a thunder and or a lightning caused cancellation. And even if we did see Iowa State play, they would have dominated South Dakota State and they would have walked into Iowa. And we wouldn't really be talking about Iowa State. And I think we won't talk about Iowa State after this week either because we'll get to that. I'll talk about Iowa State soon. Michigan, I got winning, but I got Western Michigan covering. I've kind of explained that. I do think Michigan is just a way better team, but that offense looked pretty good for Western Michigan. They're going to be able to keep it within that 27.5 mark. Wake Forest against Towson. Towson is not that solid of a football program. Hate to say it. I got Sam Hartman, the true freshman, and Wake Forest going in and winning. Sam Hartman is a solid player, guys. If you haven't seen Last Chance U, there's Sam Hartman for you. Purdue, favored by 17 points against Eastern Michigan. They will definitely cover here. And I think Purdue wins this one pretty easily in response to a very crushing loss in West Lafayette Stadium, or West Lafayette and Ross-Ade Stadium. I think they get things done, though. Rondale Moore is a playmaker that I covered live. Just make his debut and make a huge impact. Vanderbilt looked pretty decent in week 1. We're going to go ahead and give them the win against a Nevada team who also looked pretty good and a little bit better than I expected in their opener against FCS foe Portland State. But I'm going to go ahead and give Vanderbilt the easy dub in Nashville. I don't think it's really all that close. 9.5 is a close line. Arizona, Houston, not impressed with Arizona in week 1. Not impressed so much that if a lot doesn't change and if they get out of this whole trying to make Khalil Tate a pro-style type of quarterback, only 8 rushes is not enough for a guy like Khalil Tate, but how many times he threw the ball is way too much for a guy like Khalil Tate. Khalil Tate is in the Heisman talks not because of his arm. Khalil Tate is in the Heisman talks because he knows how to make plays through the air and mainly on the ground. So I'm going to go with Houston in this win, this one, and I think it will be close, but kind of like that BYU game, I just think it will come down to Khalil Tate being asked to do too much through the air and not enough through the ground. And De'Aaron King's going to have a pretty decent game. And I really like this guy, Marquez Stevenson. Very solid wide receiver as well at Houston. J.J. Taylor is not too bad either. I think this one's going to be a shootout. I think you will see Khalil Tate run the ball more. I still don't think that it'll be a huge change in offense. Duke versus Northwestern. I got Northwestern in this ball game. This is kind of one of the first real toss-up pickup games that people are going to be talking about. But a lot of people actually have Northwestern. Not too many people. I think I have a 21 person so far, and 19 of them I've taken picks for. There's one who was picked, and I didn't copy them down. But everyone but one person picked Northwestern, which kind of disappointed me. I should have added in Penn State, which was not even featured, at least as a spread game, so I wish I would have done that. But look, Northwestern, I got winning this ball game. I really like Clayton Thorson. I think he will get most of the snaps, if not all. I think he will actually get all the snaps this time around. Especially if that game kind of gets close, they're going to get it to their steady hand in Clayton Thorson. Also, Jeremy Larkin, the home run hitter that he is, he's not a back like Justin Jackson. He will make big plays, and I think that will kind of be the difference in this game. I think Duke is a solid team. I think there is a possibility of them making the ACC championship. Will they? Probably not, but is it possible? I mean, I think this is the best team that David Cutcliffe has had since they last made the ACC championship a handful of years ago. I believe that was 2013, maybe 2014. I can't remember. But this is the best team since then. So, and I really like Daniel Jones at quarterback. I like Clayton Thorson more, and I like his teammates more. I really like his receiving core, Northwestern. Northwestern's receiving core stepped up, and that secondary also really stepped up. Georgia Tech, South Florida, another pick'em type game here, and it's going to be in Raymond James Stadium. But I got Georgia Tech winning. It's not too far of a travel. Blake Barnett is not too bad, and he played pretty good in their opener against Elon. But Georgia Tech's triple option is going to be very dangerous. I'd take Taquan Marshall back again. Kind of quiet first week. No one really talking about Georgia Tech in their win. I think Georgia Tech gets a big win against USF out of conference. Georgia State and NC State. I got NC State winning this one. Ryan Finley went crazy a week ago against James Madison. And James Madison is probably not going to face a quarterback as good as he is and a wide receiver as good as Jacoby Myers is. But I really like North Carolina State to dominate in this one in Raleigh, North Carolina. UCLA, Oklahoma, I said it wouldn't be close. I got Oklahoma winning this one. Kyler Murray is going to have a pretty good game on the ground. I think this UCLA secondary is better than we give credit for, and I don't think Oklahoma's going to score with ease like they did against a crappy FAU defense, because UCLA's defense isn't too bad. It's the offensive side that they had their shortcomings with once Wilton Speight went down. So I really liked seeing this matchup between the secondary and Kyler Murray. See, I expect Kyler Murray to make a couple mistakes, but I don't think the game's going to really depend on those mistakes. I got Oklahoma winning by a lot. Boston College, Holy Cross, do I really need to answer this? I'm really high on Boston College right now. Anthony Brown, solid game-managing quarterback who had 4 touchdowns a week ago, not really having to rely on A.J. Dillon, who was zeroed in on last week against UMass. So I'm going to go ahead and give Boston College the win against Holy Cross. William Mary versus Virginia Tech. I picked them against the spread, but I really like Virginia Tech's defense. I think their defense honestly just is going to give their offense opportunities. Otherwise, they would not get with Josh Jackson at quarterback playing very well. And I also was impressed with their running back tandem and the receivers. The receivers stepped up big time. Look at this guy, Hezekiah Grinsley. He played amazing on Monday night. So I'm going to go ahead and give the win to Virginia Tech. And Portland State, Oregon, again, I had Portland State covering, but I don't think they have any chance of winning. Justin Herbert, possibly the best pro-type quarterback, a prototypical type of quarterback for the pros. I like Justin Herbert, who I think will be the top quarterback selected in the mid-first round right now, actually. So that's kind of a hot take. I just kind of checked it for. FAU and Air Force, a very interesting matchup. I think this game is going to be a lot closer than expected. I think it will be within a touchdown. I don't see FAU winning by more than 9 points. But I have to give it to FAU at home in Boca Raton. I actually really like Air Force. But Chris Robinson isn't a bad quarterback, and if they need to, they will throw in DeAndre Johnson, who's also not a bad quarterback. And I really want to see Devin Singletary take off after a very bad week in Norman, Oklahoma a week ago. Kansas against Central Michigan. Look, most times I would pick Kansas to just win this game just because I want to see Kansas not be a laughingstock for just 1 week. But they're going to lose this game, and this is why, because I saw them against Nichols, guys. I saw the end of it, and, man, I saw a little bit of the highlights, and they just looked terrible. They look like a mid-level FCS team. They look that bad now. I think Nichols is a pretty good FCS program this year. They haven't been past, and last year they really first started. But, yeah, Central Michigan. Arkansas State and Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Again, I think it's going to be closer than the experts predicted. I think the line is a little bit too high. I got Arkansas State winning this one. Justin Hanson is a very solid quarterback. Tua Tagovailoa is a little better, though. And Damian Harris, I shouldn't even say a little. Damian Harris is also a better back. Alabama's just going to roll. Here we go, Georgia, South Carolina. I got South Carolina winning this one because Georgia's depth behind J.R. Reed and DeAndre Baker is going to be seriously tested in that secondary, and also back in core who lost Lorenzo Carter and Roquan Smith from a year ago. I think that this solid South Carolina team, Rico Dowdle, is going to have a pretty decent game because of balance. And even though the defensive front is pretty good for Georgia, it's no Clemson. Jake Bentley is going to be able to provide a lot of balance there. He will also get it out to possibly the best receiver in college football, at least the best slot receiver, Deebo Samuel, and also Shi Smith and Brian Edwards on the edges is very, very good for opening up deep routes, because if they try to lock off Deebo Samuel over the middle, the outsides are going to be open with solid wide receivers. I got South Carolina going to be able to manipulate the Georgia secondary in what will be a shootout in Columbia. If Georgia's going to win this ball game, I think they got to score a lot of points. I think that line's way too much. I think Georgia needs to score a lot of points to win this ball game in Columbia. I could be very wrong on that. It's a little bit of a shot, and a little bit. It's a reach. It definitely is a reach. I think South Carolina gets to win for the reasons that I pointed out. Nothing's really going to change it. I think South Carolina's defense isn't great, but I think it's good enough to win this ball game. And I think they're not going to be as good as Georgia, as talented as Georgia, but they're good enough to come up with a big win. And look, sometimes the best teams don't always win. That's why Alabama is going to drop a game. That's why Clemson is more than likely going to drop a game, because sometimes the best teams don't win. Upsets happen, so everyone who's going chalk saying Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Alabama, Georgia is going to be undefeated going into the SEC championship, and Georgia's only loss is going to be to Alabama, and Clemson is going to be undefeated. Quit being so boring, all right? I have Stanford in my playoff, and that is a reach to a lot of people. Come on. I'm going on a little bit of a rant here. Quit picking the favorites, guys. The favorites almost never win. Look at Ohio State last year. Look at Florida State last year. In the preseason, they were, Florida State was favored to be first. Clemson was picked third in their division. And Florida State was a lock for the playoff. That Alabama and Florida State was just a preview for the college football. Ohio State, how could they lose a game? If they lose any game, it's just going to be to Oklahoma, overlooking Iowa on that schedule. If they lose any game, it's going to be to Oklahoma and or Penn State, overlooking Iowa. Look, the best team doesn't always win. Sometimes the best team even gets blown out, Ohio State. Sometimes the best team always gets blown out, arguably USC. Let the field decide it. If you have no guts, don't predict. If you don't have guts, to go with a little bit of underdogs, all right? If you don't have the guts or the knowledge to know where you could possibly find upsets, don't pick anyone to make a playoff. Because I don't want to hear the most predictable playoff in Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, and Georgia. And not that order, but you know what I mean. I'm tired of hearing it. Everywhere I turn, ESPN, Athlon Sports, CBS, Fox, and I just turn everywhere, even small YouTubers who make these predictions. I'm tired of the virtue signaling. Please, have a mind for your own. Have a mind to think about possible upsets and possible plays. I think this week's going to prove everyone wrong. I think this week's going to say, hey, look, you guys messed up by picking all these teams. Back to the picks. Notre Dame's going to beat Ball State. I think Nebraska, and I'm not even going to spend time on that. Nebraska's going to beat Colorado handily. I think they will come in and show people that, hey, look, we aren't that bad. We are still Nebraska. The bowl team. That's what Nebraska is going to try to prove this year. Buffalo, Temple. I got Buffalo. I really like the Buffalo Bulls, and also Temple looked very bad. I expected Temple to be a lot better. They looked very bad against Villanova. I like Tyree Jackson at quarterback. I don't know if there's even a favorite in this game. I don't care. I'm going with Buffalo. Navy, Memphis. Navy's pass defense looked very bad, and Brady White looked very good. Put 2 and 2 together, Memphis is going to come up with a win by a couple of touchdowns. I like Malcolm Perry and all, and I think this will be a high-scoring shootout in Annapolis. But look, when you do what you did against Hawaii and then have a long trip back to Annapolis, I got to go Memphis. North Carolina, East Carolina. I think this game is going to be closer than that 17 points per day. Nathan Elliott at quarterback is not as good as Chasseran. There's the reason why it's going to be a little bit of an effect. I got North Carolina winning, though. It's going to be hard for me to pick against North Carolina right now. Wagner versus Syracuse. And I don't know the status on Eric Dungey right now, but you don't need Eric Dungey to beat Wagner Syracuse. If Syracuse loses to Wagner, they are the worst team. Howard and Kent State. I got Howard winning this one. I really like Kalen Newton, the younger brother of Cam Newton, that is. And I really like how well coached this Howard team is. They almost knocked off Ohio last week. I think Ohio is a much, much better team than Kent State. I think Howard beats Kent State with some relative ease. Morgan State against Akron. Got Akron, and it'll be very fun to see Akron in their opener finally get to play, because it's technically their opener. They get it at home in Precision Stadium. I got Akron winning with Cato Nelson at quarterback, a very solid crew at wide receiver, including Quadarius Smith. I really like Akron this year as well. I like that whole MAC East. I think 3 teams in the MAC East are better than anyone in the West. Lamar, Texas Tech. I got to go Texas Tech, even though they look pretty bad. I still like DeLeon Moore. Over Jared Garantano, and I had to look at something. But either way, Tennessee's not that good. It's just East Tennessee State. So if I see any Tennessee fans come back to the surface after that embarrassment against West Virginia and say something about how good their players looked against East Tennessee State, I'm going to be a little bit mad. North Dakota and rainy Seattle, Washington against Washington. Washington wins with ease. Jake Browning, Miles Gaskin, and the crew had a pretty decent game, a pretty decent showing against Auburn, but that offensive line could not contain that defensive line, and as a result, Washington lost. As simple as that. But Washington's going to beat North Dakota. Iowa State, Iowa. There we go. We finally get to Iowa. I really like Torrin Young. Look, I'm watching this game. Northern Illinois versus Iowa, and I'm seeing Torrin Young run through people. And Nathan Stanley didn't have the greatest game, not the greatest yards. That's mostly because of the conservative nature of the play calling that they had, just a lot of simple routes. Didn't want to give too much off to Iowa State, and I definitely saw that. I like Iowa in this ball game. I think it's going to be close. I really like that offense for Iowa State, but that defense is not as good as the Iowa defense. And look, the secondary may have dropped off, but watch for their two safeties. Armani Hooker, specifically the junior, a very solid safety, a guy to watch for. I really like that guy at safety. And also the receiving core is not too bad. We see Hawkinson here having a pretty big game against Northern Illinois. You also have a guy, Nick Easley, who's a very solid wide receiver, can go up and get the ball. And Noah Fant, I should say Fant. I don't know if that's completely accurate, but I'm going to say Noah Fant. Noah Fant is a tight end who can do it all. He's maybe the best tight end in the country. I like Iowa to win this game, even though I really like Iowa State. Kyle Kemp, David Montgomery, and Hakeem Butler, and the guys got them. West Virginia, is it even a question? I'm just going to move on. UCF, not even a question. Miami, not even a question. UMass is going to win this game against Georgia Southern, but I think it's going to be very close. Shai Werts is a guy who runs the triple option to perfection. Georgia Southern is favored for that reason, but I like actually UMass and what they've shown. Andy Isabella is a top-tier receiver in this country, and definitely if fantasy stretched to the group of five and you can pick up any group of five, that guy would be on my roster. Andy Isabella is a very solid receiver. Through 2 games already over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, and I really like Andy Isabella. All that you need to do is lock him down. Even Boston College didn't do a great job of locking him down. They did good, not great, and he still went over some pretty good yards. Appalachian State, Charlotte. I got Appalachian State. A great showing by Zach Thomas and the crew. Victor Tucker for Charlotte is a very solid wide receiver, though. A big week a week ago. However, I got Appalachian State, who loses in overtime a week ago against Penn State. I don't think it's really all that close. Zach Thomas leads Appalachian State to their first victory by a handful of touchdowns. Isaiah Green fills in well for Chase Lutton in week 1 as the Marshall Thundering Herd goes 1-0, and I think they continue to 2-0 against Eastern Kentucky. And I think Keon Davis is going to kind of carry the ship here and not going to force too much pressure on Isaiah Green in a game that really isn't going to be in that much jeopardy to lose. Clemson versus Texas A&M. As I said, Clemson is going to blow out Texas A&M. Kellen Mond is going to have to beat Texas A&M through the air. I don't think he can do that. I also think this defense of line is still just crazy for them. I got Clemson winning. LSU versus Southeastern Louisiana, not even close. I got LSU winning. Brissett's going to be out at halftime. Burrow's going to be out at halftime. Justin Jefferson's going to be out at halftime. UT Martin against Middle Tennessee. Man, Middle Tennessee let me down a week ago, but I'm not saying they're going to lose against UT Martin, who had a terrible showing against Missouri a week ago. Brent Stockstill is still a top-tier quarterback in the Conference USA in Middle Tennessee, even if they stumbled against Vanderbilt, who actually looked pretty solid. I got to go with Brent Stockstill and the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders and his dad, Rick Stockstill. Southern against Louisiana Tech. I knew Louisiana Tech would look good against South Alabama a week ago, and that South Alabama team is not too shabby, at least for group of 5 standards. I got Jamar Smith going ahead and beating Southern down out there in Ruston. Louisiana Monroe against Southern Mississippi. I got Southern Mississippi in a close one. I think this one's actually going to be pretty close. Caleb Evans actually fills in very well for Garrett Smith from a year ago. But USM has guys and has the experience and has the players to win this ball game. Quez Watkins looked very good against – I can't remember who they played, actually. He looked very good, though. UAB – UAB versus Coastal Carolina. I got UAB in this one. And I don't know if it's all that close. A.J. Ardley, a very solid quarterback. You can find Colin Lisa like crazy. Colin Lisa, that guy can absolutely – he can go up and get some balls, man. He just plays reckless. I don't know how else to put that. Baylor against UTSA. I think I have Baylor to win this ball game here. But I think it will be very close. That 16-point deficit, or that 16-point line is not too great. I got UTSA keeping it close. UTSA is not too bad. They started to pick up for the first time at the FBS level, and this has been very fun watching UTSA through the last couple of years. I think Baylor is improved, especially on the defensive side. I think Baylor is just a better team all around, and they won't fall with the same fate of 1-11 like they did a year ago. Indiana State versus Louisville. You look as bad as Louisville looked against Alabama. I don't think Indiana State is any Alabama. I got Louisville winning this one with pretty big ease. Trey Smith is going to do a lot better than 4 carries for 11 yards. Wyoming against Missouri. I got Missouri. I was very high on Wyoming after the week 1 win, and then they let me down against Washington State. They really did. I expected at least a very close game, and it was close at halftime. I think actually Wyoming led at halftime, but they couldn't hang in there for 60 minutes. I think it's going to be similar. I think Wyoming's going to keep it close, kind of open some eyes. Drew Lock's going to throw his first interception, maybe even 2 interceptions of the season in the first half, but Missouri is going to pull this one away. Right now it's 20.5. That has rose 4 points since I put it in my picks. I would definitely go with I would probably go with the under at 20.5, but since I'm picking 16.5 and I went around the system, I got Missouri barely covering the 17. Texas Southern, Texas State. I got Texas State in this one. Willie Jones did not look good at all against Rutgers. He looked terrible against Rutgers, and Texas State, I might pick Texas Southern in this one. I'm going to go ahead and just go with my gut and say Texas State, but it does not look good there for the Bobcats. Florida A&M and Troy. I got Troy easily in this one. Caleb Barker looked pretty good in his replacement game for Brandon Silvers from a year ago, and I want to see what Troy can do a little bit against Florida A&M. Yeah, I'm going to be watching that game out of all of them. Why the heck is Fort Valley State against Valdosta State in here? I don't care about that game. Get it off my screen. Wait. ESPN 3. I don't care about that game. Samford against Florida State. I think Samford has a serious shot. Not really. I'm going with Florida State. Quit scheduling these cupcakes, guys. Alabama State and Auburn. I don't want to see that. Jarrett Stidham is going to go off. Cam Martin's going to be sad at halftime. Ryan Davis is not going to play in the first quarter or in the second quarter. Who cares? They're going to win. Kentucky against Florida. This game's going to be very close. Really like Benny Snell to kind of get the Florida Gators on their toes. Charleston Southern ran all over Florida a week ago. I think Benny Snell has a big game that keeps Kentucky in this game, but for some reason Kentucky cannot beat Florida. I think Florida has dudes this year. I think they're a solid team. I don't think they're quite top 25 yet. They got to actually beat someone. If they beat Kentucky, I'd consider them, depending on how the chips fall this week. If Arizona State and Pitt win, I don't know if I can put Florida in over, especially Arizona State. I don't know if I can even put Florida in over Pitt, but we'll get to that if that is the scenario that happens. It needs to happen first. Illinois against Western Illinois, a good comeback for Illinois, even though Mike Dudek went down, and that is a very sad story. Illinois, very good comeback against Kansas State. I think they actually get their second win of the year, which they might not get too many wins, but they will get second in a row against Western Illinois. But A.J. Bush looked pretty good at quarterback as a dual threat guy, going near the 300 mark in near the 300 mark in total offense or total yards. I think he was at 230. But I guess that's not really all that close, but still. Virginia against Indiana. I got Indiana in this one. Jordan Ellis looks very good, and I think they made the right decision with Peyton Ramsey at quarterback. Although they're struggling against FIU, I don't know if that's a testament to FIU and say, watch out, FIU might not be all that bad. Butch Jones is doing something. Butch Jones. I meant Butch Davis, the better Butch. That Butch is a joke. But I really like Jordan Ellis for Virginia. And Olamide Zacchaeus, very solid wide receiver, a very fast guy, but Indiana's got a lot of dudes as well. Nick Westbrook is a very solid slot receiver. I also really like Peyton Ramsey. I kind of like Lago a little more, but Lagao, I should say, did throw the interceptions a lot more often than Peyton Ramsey, but Peyton Ramsey doesn't have the arm. I don't know. A lot was said. A lot was done. Moving on. In Fort Collins, we got Arkansas against Colorado State. I actually think this one's going to be very close. I think Carter Samuels is going to go crazy, but overall, I just think Arkansas is going to be a little too much for them. Arkansas's got too much of a cupcake of a schedule. They got a walk. A freaking walk to a bowl game. That's all they have, and they don't have two FCS opponents. They just scheduled bottom dwellers in college football FBS level. Really don't like it. Izzy Matthews, very solid player that really hasn't kicked into gear yet. I'm going to be very curious if he can finally kick into gear this week. Utah against Northern Illinois. I got Utah, and look, I'm a little higher on Utah than I probably should. Oh my gosh, excuse me. No, I probably should be. I think they will beat down Northern Illinois, kind of similar to how Iowa beat them down, even though they play some completely different types of offenses. Zach Moss in week 1 looked very good against a Weber State team that actually took Utah to the wire a little bit. They kind of challenged them a little more. Tyler Huntley also looked pretty decent, tossed 4 touchdowns. I think he had an interception or 2, though. I can't remember. Drew Eccles also looked pretty good against Wisconsin of all team. I think he leads Western Kentucky to a dominating win in Bowling Green against Maine because he looked pretty good as a fifth-year senior, I think he is. He just got his first start. FIU, Old Dominion, I don't think it's close. Why is Old Dominion favored? FIU beats them down, not like Liberty beat Old Dominion down, but FAIU is a much better team. Anthony Jones, guy to watch for in this ball game. Incarnate Word and North Texas looking New Mexico has exposed Incarnate Word, and not that there really was much exposure to be needed. Lauren Easley is going to have a big game after his kind of slow start against SMU. That was the only thing slow that North Texas had going for them is the running game against SMU because, look, Mason Fine went off for 450 yards almost. It's crazy. Mason Fine threw 10 incompletions and 50 tries. North Texas is going to blow them out. Fresno State, Minnesota, hot take here. Zach Armstead. Yeah, he's not going to. Armstead, I think is his name. Armstead. I don't know. This is a very interesting name. I think he's a Canadian, I believe. I'm pretty sure he's a Canadian. But no, he won't win. He's not the best quarterback on the field. Marcus McMarion is the best quarterback on the field out of the Mountain West Conference, who, again, looks like the 6th best conference in college football. And this is one of the bottom dwellers of the Big Ten, who is going to be coming back a little bit. But a 2-point favorite at home is Minnesota right now. I like Fresno State on the road, a very solid football team out there in Fresno. Penn State, Pitt. I got Pitt winning. Look, they're going to test the edges. They're going to get around the edges, and they're going to go ahead and show off that Pitt is a serious football team this year. By the way, I forgot to talk about Iowa State when I was on their game. I'm going to stop real quick, talk about them a little bit. You ready? So I was saying Iowa State's going to be slept on. Look at their schedule. They all right, let's do this. Hopefully, Google, don't pop up anything weird on me, please. Please. Excuse me. Nothing weird yet. Nothing weird yet, Google. Good job. You did it. So look at their schedule. After Iowa, no one's going to be talking about them. You know why? Because they're going to lose this ball game. But you know what they're going to do? No one's talking about you. They expect Oklahoma to do what they failed to do a year ago. That was beat us. This time we get them in our place. So if we win, instead of our team celebrating, our team planting the Iowa flag in the middle of the field, let's prevent Kyler Murray from possibly being able to plant the flag in our field. Our field's grass, so we'll actually stick, unlike Baker Mayfield at Ohio State. Anyway, that's irrelevant. They're going to play up. I think Matt Campbell's going to play up a motivational factor after they lose to Iowa. And they will go and beat Oklahoma next week. Oklahoma last year on the high horse when they played Iowa State and dropped down drastically. This is a worse Oklahoma team, in my opinion, that's just needing to get exposed. So, what is my number 7 ranked Oklahoma? And I'm getting flack from Oklahoma fans because I put them number 7, which I think will be proven to be a little too high. Once Oklahoma falls off the cliff this year, bad play calling is going to cost them a game or two. Iowa State is going to beat them because Iowa State has a lot of team chemistry and a very solid quarterback who can do it again, a very solid running back who can do it again, and a great receiving core who can do it again even though they don't have Allen Lazard. So once that happens, Oklahoma's going to fall off the cliff. Here comes Iowa State again, and Iowa State's going to march on to the Big 12 championship. They will lose 2 games. They'll match up right now. I said Texas. I'm done with Texas. Screw Texas. They'll go 8-4, 7-5, 6-6, somewhere around the 500 level. No higher than, give or take 2 games. I could honestly see 4-8. I could see 8-4. I can't see any more, any less. Give me West Virginia, who looked better on defense than I expected, at 1 loss in conference. Actually, maybe 2 losses. I don't know. I got to look at their schedule before. But West Virginia versus Iowa State. And Iowa State will probably be underdogs there. Look at this. Look at how the schedule sets up. They beat Oklahoma. They beat Akron. But they lose to TCU. Oh, but they beat Oklahoma State on the road. Oh, they can't beat West Virginia in Jack Trice Stadium. They're a 3-loss team. They're only 4-3. Let's go ahead and drop them. And then, quietly, kind of like Northwestern a year ago, beat Texas Tech. Beat Kansas. Beat Texas Tech. Beat Kansas. Beat Baylor. And then people will start talking about them again when they beat the Longhorns and Oklahoma crumbles. Once Oklahoma crumbles, then they'll see there's a team playing out in Iowa. There's a second team playing out in Iowa. A little bit of a hint. What else I'm thinking? A second team playing out in Iowa right now. Guess what? They're 1 game away from playing in the Big 12 championship. This was a 4-3 team who all of a sudden is 8-3 and 1 game away from a Big 12 championship appearance. They beat Kansas State 9-3. And then, look, this team just was a benefit of a front-heavy schedule. In the back, they were able to survive the front with only 3 losses and 2 in conference. This is what people are going to say. Then you will have 5 games where, they got a bunch of, maybe a couple teams can get to a bowl game, maybe. So what? And then Matt Campbell turns it on. The motivational factor, kind of like this Oklahoma game. And Oklahoma State, too. I think Oklahoma State's just going to struggle really against that defense. That secondary specifically is a little bit better than the front 7, which is kind of in reverse from last year. But anyway, then all of a sudden, look, you lost to West Virginia at home. No one's going to give you a shot in this game. Secondary steps up. Iowa State wins. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, look, Matt Campbell can do it. I know that's a shot. And again, I said Iowa. That's another shot. Guys, I am not afraid to take shots. You need to know this at this stage of the game here at Bash CFB Network. I'm not afraid to take shots in my predictions. I'm not afraid to say at one point that Maryland was going to beat Ohio State. I don't say that anymore, but I said that at one point. That's obviously back to the picks. Utah State's going to beat New Mexico State rather easily. I need to go to sleep here soon. Oklahoma State's going to have a nice game against South Alabama. Texas is going to bounce back against Tulsa. Tulane is going to beat Nichols because they are better than Kansas, and Tulane is this very solid football team who looked pretty decent against Wake Forest, especially on defense. Oregon State's actually going to win a game. They looked very good. Artavius Pierce is going to continue his tear against Southern Utah. USC is going to fall to Stanford on Fox at 8:30. KJ Costello is going to be able to hit them on a little bit of play action, and Bryce Love's going to have a big game after a disappointing week one. UNLV is going to hold off UTEP with ease. There's a reason they are favored by 23.5. I think they win by a little more. I like Amari Rogers. I like Lexington Thomas, and I like Kendall Keys. This is a very solid skill position based offense on UNLV. I really like UNLV to have a very successful season, and it starts here with UTEP. San Diego State wins with ease against Sacramento State. They looked very good defensively against Stanford. They also turned it up a bit in the run game against Stanford. Juwan Washington is going to go off for 200 yards. Maybe not, but either way, they're going to look good. Boise State is going to dominate UConn. Boise State, the best Power 5 team right here. Cal is going to beat BYU and show people that Arizona is kind of fraudulent this year. And BYU might be a little bit back, but they aren't completely back. And California is no joke. That's what's going to be shown on ESPN2 at 10:15 p.m. Michigan State is going to fall on the road against Arizona State with N'Keal Harry, possibly the best, a top-tier receiver in the country, possibly the best. He's up there with Deebo Samuel and David Sills. Brian Lewerke is going to have a couple of interceptions against a very solid defense who only held Washington to 7 points at home a year ago. This time it's a late kickoff, too, for Michigan State. It'll be 10:45 local for Michigan State versus 8:45 local for Arizona State. I'm pretty sure that's Pacific, at least. I could be wrong. If it's Mountain, 9:45. That's 8:45. If it's Pacific, it's 7:45. I'm stupid. I don't know. I don't know what I'm thinking. Gardner Minshew is going to continue proving me wrong about Washington State when I said that they were not going to be nearly as good as they were a year ago, and they're going to dominate San Jose State. Cole McDonald is also going to completely and utterly continue his tear against the country and be the first quarterback to 1,000 passing yards against Rice, and it won't even be close. He'll maybe get 1,200 passing yards. Dominant against Navy, dominant against Colorado State. He'll be dominant against Rice. Thank you guys for tuning in to this presentation of Bash CFB Network, which went overtime. I hope I get to see you guys on Saturday. I could possibly be broadcasting that late night ball game between Arizona State and Michigan State. I hope I do get the opportunity. If I don't, I am sorry. I wish I could, but I won't be able to. I'll see you later.